talking about how to set up your chart. So the first thing you want to do when you are about to make a trade and you're looking at your charts is you want to examine the big picture. What is happening in the global economy and what is happening in your country's economy? Those are two big things that are going to dictate how well your stock does, because no matter what, if you're in Canada, you're in the US, you're somewhere else in the world, if your country is falling apart, your inflation's going wild, you've got political change or political upheaval, things are going to go wrong for your stock. So you got to be able to deal with that, and you got to know about it by looking at the big picture first. Now, once you're okay with the big picture, you know what's going on, next thing you want to do is look at your industry. So if you are trading in renewables and you're doing solar panels, you might want to look at an index fund of solar companies. If you're trading in oil and gas, you might want to look at the price of the barrel. If you're trading in something else, you might want to look at what's just happening in that industry and maybe with the major players in that industry. After that, you want to nail it down into your company, and that's where we're going to get into it. So the first thing you want to do is make sure, once you've established your company and which one you're really looking at, make sure you are looking at the chart and the currency that is associated with that market. So if you are looking at a company on the NASDAQ, it is going to be basically traded in the US and using US currencies. If you are looking at something on the TSX, the Toronto Stock Exchange, it's going to be using Canadian currencies. Now, it can be listed on both exchanges at the same time, and that's why it's really important to make sure you're looking at the right chart as well. You could be trading a Canadian company using US dollars on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. So there's lots of different examples where that's a very common thing. So making sure that once you have a company, you know what basically currency you're trading with and what market you're trading it on. Are you in the TSX? Are you in the NASDAQ? Are you in the New York Stock Exchange? Are you in some venture exchange? You need to identify that so you know which country you're actually making the trade in and what currency you're using. After that, you need to look at the chart. Now, there's several different places that you can get your charts from. I use stockcharts.com a lot. I have one of their paid services. I've been using it for years, and it's actually what I learned on. It's a great service, and it's pretty simple to use. You can also get much more complicated platforms, and you can use much more expensive platforms. There's TradingView, TD Ameritrade, eToro, Bloomberg, and lots more. eToro is really cool because it's kind of like a social network for stocks, but it's only available in the United States. It's not available in Canada anymore. TD Ameritrade links up directly with your trading account, so there's no need to go between a platform like this and your bank account. So it really depends on what you're looking for and what your time frames are, but there's lots of different options out there. I use stockcharts.com, and that's what we're going to go through today. So just to show you what it looks like, this is stockcharts.com, and if we go to my profile here, we can go see my chart list, and I just have the basic profile. It's a couple dollars a month, and I can log in here, and the nice thing here is I can store a chart list. And what a chart list is it is a group of companies that I am following. Where is it? Where do we go here? Why isn't this working? But it's a group of companies that I am following. And so what it allows me to do is basically keep track of a group of companies. So if I'm looking at solar companies, I can look up 10 different solar companies, do technical analysis on all of them, and then I can basically decide which ones I want to get in and out of. Okay, this finally works. So here's the main page of stockcharts.com, and I've got my basically default list at the top here. So this is where I keep track of 33 different charts that are all basically annotated and have my notes on them. So the first one that I always look at is the Dow Jones Industrial. This is the 30 most influential companies in the United States, and it's basically my thermometer for what's happening in the United States. I also look at the Canadian markets, and I look at some of the Asian and European markets as well. But this is usually where I start my day, just to see what's happening. So we can see we had a big dip here going into March, and we're starting to recover in April. We'll see if this holds up or if we fall all the way back down or past our previous lows. After that, we can go to basically the next stock. This one I have listed as Apple, and you can clearly see some of my technical analysis here. Now, what's kind of cool about this is you have lots of options when you're working with stockcharts.com. Number one, you can click on the annotate button here, and you can draw all your lines with whatever fixtures, whatever designs, whatever colors you want, so that you can annotate onto the chart, and then it updates each day, so that as your chart moves along, it moves your annotations through. So I did these ones a couple of months ago, and now it's kept them basically on the chart screen while the stock keeps on moving. So great to see. What's really cool and unique here is I identified level of resistance here from a couple of peaks, and Apple dropped all the way down to it here at the 210 mark. So really cool to see and a really handy tool. After that, as you scroll down, you get a little bit more information and control here. So you can change the time frame. If you want to look at it on a 10-day period, it's really easy. If you wanted to look at it on a 1-year period, it's really easy to change all these different specs and figure out what kind of time frame you really want on this. You can also change the type of chart, so from candlesticks to a line if you want. I leave it on candlesticks because I think it gives me the most clear information. And you can also separate the volume. So if it's too cluttered underneath the chart here, you can hit separate and it basically puts the volume onto a separate chart here. So really great for just setting up that kind of main screen with your price and volume. After that, you get into overlays and indicators. Now these are really crucial for all of the indicators that we've talked about in this course and in the lessons. So this is where you can actually apply them. Now I've talked about 6 or 7 different indicators, maybe a couple more than that, but here's the list of how many indicators you can actually use on your chart. Boom. So I think there's maybe 50 different, maybe 30 different indicators in here, and there's about 20 different overlays that you can apply to this chart to basically get more information, more buy and sell signals to confirm or deny your assumptions. So these are all different mathematical indicators that you can use and apply into your charts. I've just gone through some of the most popular, and the ones that I use most often. So right now I've got the RSI on the top, I've got my volume separated below, I've got the MACD in here, and I could add more if I wanted to. So let's say I'm down here and I wanted to add the Williams percentage R. This one is sort of like the MAC, or sort of like the RSI. It gives me a chart that's sort of similar to it, but it acts a little bit more volatile and a little bit more sensitive to the fluctuations. So same idea, when it comes above this -80 line here, that means that it's a buy signal. It's coming out of the oversold zone. When it enters the green zone, that means it's now into the overbought zone, and when it exits out of that, it could be a great short sell opportunity. So lots of different signals that you can add onto your charts here. This is just one way to do it, but I think stockcharts.com does a really good way of portraying everything. Again, you can see Air Canada now with some of my previous annotations, and this is a great example of the MACD. You can see a clear crossover right here, and the stock went from about $12, now it's 17. So a great return of about 30% just to today, but you can see that this stock fell from almost $50 up here. So just some crazy swings in the markets right now, and that's why having a good trading platform and good charts is absolutely crucial to being able to identify what's going on in the market. And now, as you can see in this list, I've got a little bit of everything. I've got pharmaceutical companies, I've got Amazon in here, I've got Google, I've got Alibaba, like just a little bit of everything. These are all the different companies that I'm following right now, and you can see all of my annotations on basically all of these charts. So Stock Charts does a good job of giving you all the indicators that you might want to see, as well as allowing you to keep your annotations so that when you do your drawings on a chart and you establish support and resistance, that line is still there 6 months later. So if you have any questions about stockcharts.com or setting it up, or any other questions with regards to charts themselves, please write me an email. It was in the intro to this course. So just to finish everything up, in summary, we'll skip to the end here. The big thing that you got to do is follow your strategy. Once you've set up your charts, follow your strategy and make sure that all of your boxes are checked for what it takes for you to buy a stock, and then get ready to sell that stock in case things turn around. Before you buy that stock, though, you need to make sure you are aware of what's happening in the bigger picture. If the Dow Jones is plummeting and you plan on buying a large company in the United States, you might want to at least reconsider buying that company right now, buying a smaller portion of that company, or buying that company at all in general. So really take a good look at the big picture, because that's going to be the indication of what's going to happen a couple months down the line. Also, don't spend a ton of money on software. You do not need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on fancy computers and fancy softwares before you can at least understand the basics and make a couple of trades. I spend maybe $20 a month on stockcharts.com, and you can get a lot of the softwares that I listed even there for free. So don't spend a ton of money on it. The importance is getting the information out of it, and you only need so much to make a decision. So get as much information as you need to make that decision from one of these platforms, and then execute on your trading strategy to meet your financial goals that we highlighted before. I'm Zach Hartley. Thanks for tuning in.